The fluorescent lights hummed their familiar tune in the SEAL Team 6 compound as Esperanza, Ekko, Valdez pushed her cleaning cart down the polished corridors. The wheels squeaked against the waxed floor, a sound that had become as routine as her morning coffee. At 6:30 hours, the elite warriors were already gone, vanished into whatever classified mission demanded their legendary skills. Left behind were empty energy drink cans, tactical gear scattered like breadcrumbs, and the lingering scent of gun oil and determination. What none of them knew was that the woman collecting their trash had once painted targets from 30,000 feet, her steady hands guiding precision strikes that changed the course of battles they'd never heard about. The bronze star hidden in her apartment dresser told a different story than the name tag reading maintenance staff, pinned to her gray uniform. But in the shadow world of compartmentalized security clearances, yesterday's heroes often became today's invisible workforce. The mystery began with a manila envelope that shouldn't have existed. Tucked beneath a stack of classified mission reports in Colonel Marcus Blackwood's office wastebasket, it bore a stamp that made Ekko's blood freeze. Operation Desert Viper, eyes only. Her own squadron designation from 7 years ago, from a mission that officially never happened. From a night when she defied direct orders to save the lives of 37 American servicemen trapped behind enemy lines. Ekko's fingers trembled as she recognized the familiar texture of operational photographs. Someone had been digging into her past, into the classified operation that had simultaneously earned her the military's third highest honor and effectively ended her flying career. The faces in those photos belonged to men she'd pulled from certain death, their helicopters disabled by enemy fire while she flew combat air patrol overhead. They'd called her Nightingale over the radio that night, watching as her F-16 Fighting Falcon screamed through the darkness, painting laser targets for danger-close strikes that cleared their extraction route. But military justice had a different perspective on improvised heroics. While the rescued soldiers went home to their families, Ekko found herself reassigned to administrative duties, military speak for career purgatory. The woman who'd once been trusted with multi-million-dollar aircraft now pushed a cart worth less than the missiles she used to carry. The irony wasn't lost on her. She cleaned the offices of operators who still flew the missions she'd been deemed unsuitable to execute. The envelope contained more than photographs. Coordinates, radio frequencies, and a date 3 days in the future suggested that someone wanted her past to intersect with the present in ways that could prove catastrophic for everyone involved. Colonel Blackwood's coffee mug sat cold and forgotten on his desk as morning light filtered through reinforced windows. The SEAL compound buzzed with its usual pre-mission energy, operators checking gear, intelligence analysts updating threat assessments, and support staff ensuring every detail aligned perfectly. But today carried an electric tension that even the most experienced warriors could feel without understanding. Ekko continued her rounds with practiced invisibility, her trained eyes cataloging details that her maintenance supervisor would never notice. The mission boards showed deployment schedules that matched the coordinates from the envelope. Radio equipment displayed frequencies identical to those written, in careful handwriting, across classified photographs. Someone with intimate knowledge of both her past and current SEAL operations had left her a message impossible to ignore. As she emptied trash bins throughout the Tactical Operations Center, fragments of conversations painted a picture that chilled her to the bone. References to compromised assets and blown covers suggested that Operation Desert Viper hadn't remained as buried as military officials had promised. The men she'd saved that night had gone on to distinguished careers in special operations, their survival enabling decades of successful missions. Now someone was threatening to expose not just her past actions, but the entire network of operations that had grown from that single night of defiant heroism. The cleaning cart's squeaky wheel announced her presence as she entered the briefing room where tomorrow's mission was taking shape. Maps covered tables, satellite images filled monitors, and the familiar smell of strong coffee mixed with the tension of impending combat operations. Ekko had stood in rooms like this countless times as a pilot, contributing to mission planning with the expertise that came from flying combat sorties. Now she collected the detritus of others' preparations. Invisible to the warriors who'd soon risk their lives based on intelligence, she could read better than half the analysts in the building. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen barely looked up as Ekko emptied the wastebasket near her workstation. The SEAL officer was too focused on route planning to notice that the maintenance worker was reading classified materials over her shoulder, or that those dark eyes held the steady focus of someone who'd navigated similar tactical challenges from an aerial perspective. Ekko had learned to weaponize her invisibility, using her janitorial duties as cover for gathering intelligence on threats that official channels might miss. The photographs hidden in her cleaning supplies showed faces she recognized not just from that night 7 years ago, but from recent intelligence briefings she'd glimpsed while emptying trash in the operations center. Someone was connecting dots across classified operations, building a picture that could destroy careers and compromise ongoing missions. The question wasn't whether they would act on this intelligence, but when, and how many good soldiers would die in the process. Ekko's trained pilot instincts recognized the tactical situation developing around her. The enemy had identified her as a critical node in a network they wanted to exploit or destroy. They'd positioned pieces carefully, using her own past heroism as leverage against the present mission. But they'd made one crucial miscalculation. They assumed that 7 years of janitorial work had erased the warrior who'd once commanded respect in some of the most dangerous airspace on Earth. The morning briefing erupted with controlled chaos as new intelligence shifted mission parameters. Ekko watched from behind her cart as maps changed, routes adjusted, and contingency plans restructured around threats that seemed to anticipate every tactical decision. Colonel Blackwood's voice carried the strain of command as he coordinated with multiple agencies, his weathered face reflecting the weight of sending young warriors into harm's way based on intelligence that felt increasingly unreliable. Master Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez emerged from the secure communications room with the kind of expression that made seasoned operators reach instinctively for their weapons. His weathered hands gripped a message printout as he approached the colonel, his boots clicking against polished floors with military precision. Ekko had seen that look before, in the eyes of her squadron commander when enemy intelligence had compromised their mission routes, when carefully planned operations suddenly became desperate improvisation. "Sir, we've got a problem," Rodriguez said, his voice carrying the gravity of someone who'd survived too many missions to waste words on dramatics. 3 separate sources are reporting that tomorrow's insertion route has been blown. Someone's feeding real-time intelligence to hostiles, and they're positioning assets to intercept our teams during in-flight. The briefing room fell silent except for the hum of electronic equipment and the distant sound of helicopters conducting training flights. Ekko continued her cleaning routine, but every fiber of her being focused on the tactical problem developing around her. She'd flown enough combat missions to recognize the signatures of compromised operations, the way intelligence patterns shifted when enemies gained inside access to friendly planning cycles. Colonel Blackwood studied the message with the methodical attention that had kept him alive through 3 decades of special operations. His gray eyes moved across tactical details with the same precision Ekko had once used to analyze threat radar while flying combat air patrol. The mathematics of military operations were unforgiving. When enemies knew your routes, your timing, and your objectives, survival became a matter of superior improvisation rather than careful planning. "How solid is this intelligence?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Rodriguez's reputation for accurate threat assessment had been earned through missions where wrong information meant body bags returning to Dover Air Force Base. The Master Chief didn't bring unconfirmed reports to commanding officers unless the threat level justified disrupting carefully coordinated operations. Ekko's cleaning brought her within earshot as Rodriguez outlined the scope of the intelligence leak. Radio frequencies, insertion coordinates, extraction points, and even backup contingency routes had somehow reached hostile forces. The level of operational detail suggested that the leak originated from within the planning cycle itself, from someone with access to the most sensitive aspects of tomorrow's mission. Every person in the room was being evaluated as a potential security threat, including the maintenance worker who'd become invisible through months of reliable service. The tactical problem extended beyond simple mission compromise. If enemies could predict American operations with this level of accuracy, then every future mission faced the same vulnerability. The network of intelligence sources, operational procedures, and communication protocols that enabled special operations success had been penetrated at its core. Tomorrow's mission wasn't just at risk. It was a potential massacre waiting to unfold in real time. The weight of classified knowledge pressed down on Ekko as she recognized elements of the compromised operation from her own military experience. The insertion routes followed patterns she'd flown as combat air support. The tactical approaches matched procedures she'd helped develop during her years as a fighter pilot. Someone with intimate knowledge of her past operations was using that expertise to compromise current missions, turning her own tactical innovations into weapons against the soldiers she'd once protected from above. The secure phone's sharp ring cut through tactical discussions like a blade through silk. Colonel Blackwood answered with the crisp efficiency of someone accustomed to managing multiple crisis situations simultaneously, his voice carrying the authority that came from commanding elite warriors in impossible circumstances. Ekko watched his expression shift from professional attention to something approaching alarm as classified information flowed through encrypted channels. "Understood," he said, his weathered face revealing nothing to the assembled operators while his grip tightened on the handset. "Confirm that assessment and stand by for further instructions." The call ended with military precision, but the silence that followed carried implications that every experienced soldier in the room could read with uncomfortable clarity. When colonels received calls that changed their expression, missions evolved from dangerous to potentially catastrophic. Master Chief Rodriguez approached with the measured steps of someone who'd learned to read tactical situations through subtle environmental changes. His 30-year career in special operations had taught him to recognize the early warning signs of missions that would be remembered for all the wrong reasons. The way Blackwood's shoulders tensed, the pause before responding to questions, the careful neutrality of his voice, all indicators that whatever intelligence had just arrived had fundamentally altered the risk calculation for tomorrow's operation. Ekko's maintenance duties brought her closer to the tactical displays, where satellite images revealed enemy positions that hadn't existed in yesterday's briefings. The hostile forces had deployed with precision that suggested detailed knowledge of American operational planning, positioning assets to interdict every primary and alternate route that special operations teams might use. The enemy wasn't reacting to American initiatives. They were anticipating them with accuracy that could only come from inside knowledge of tactical procedures. The photographs hidden in Ekko's cleaning supplies suddenly gained new significance as she recognized the tactical patterns emerging on digital displays. Someone had studied not just her past operations, but the entire methodology she'd helped develop for coordinating air support with ground operations. The enemy was using her own tactical innovations against the soldiers she'd once protected, turning 7 years of accumulated expertise into a weapon aimed at American Special Operations Forces. Colonel Blackwood's decision to continue with the mission despite confirmed intelligence compromise reflected the harsh mathematics of special operations warfare. The target was too valuable, the intelligence window too narrow, and the strategic implications too significant to abandon based on security concerns. But modifying tactical approaches to account for enemy foreknowledge required the kind of innovative thinking that most military procedures actively discouraged. Success would demand improvisation from operators trained to follow carefully rehearsed protocols. The briefing room's atmosphere shifted as senior leaders acknowledged the reality of operating in a compromised environment. Radio communications would be monitored, standard procedures anticipated, and contingency plans predicted by hostile forces with access to American operational intelligence. Every decision made in the next 12 hours would be evaluated not just for tactical effectiveness, but for its unpredictability to enemies who demonstrated uncomfortable familiarity with special operations methodology. Ekko's invisible status allowed her to observe preparations that revealed the true scope of tomorrow's operation. The number of personnel involved, the complexity of equipment being prepared, and the coordination with multiple agencies suggested a mission with strategic implications extending far beyond tactical objectives. The stakes were high enough to justify proceeding despite confirmed security compromises, which meant that failure would have consequences measured in more than just casualties. The afternoon tactical update brought news that transformed concern into genuine alarm. 3 separate intelligence sources confirmed that hostile forces had positioned anti-aircraft systems along every approach route identified in American operational planning. The surface-to-air missiles weren't randomly deployed. They'd been carefully positioned to create interlocking fields of fire that would challenge even the most advanced American aircraft. Ekko's pulse quickened as she recognized the tactical signatures from her own combat experience. The missile placement patterns matched techniques she'd studied during her fighter pilot training, procedures designed to maximize the probability of intercepting high-performance aircraft operating at low altitude. Someone with detailed knowledge of American air tactics was advising enemy forces on how to defeat the technological advantages that usually protected special operations aircraft from ground-based threats. Master Chief Rodriguez spread updated intelligence photographs across the briefing table with the grim efficiency of someone who'd seen too many good operators die because of inadequate threat assessment. The satellite images revealed mobile missile launchers positioned with precision that suggested real-time coordination with the American mission planning cycle. Every time tactical routes changed, enemy positions adjusted accordingly, maintaining lethal coverage of critical approach corridors. Colonel Blackwood studied the threat assessment with the methodical attention that had earned him command of elite special operations forces. His gray eyes moved across missile engagement zones and aircraft vulnerability envelopes with expertise gained through 3 decades of combat operations. The tactical problem was clear conventional approaches would result in aircraft losses that would compromise the mission before ground operations even began. "They're not just anticipating our routes," he observed, his voice carrying the weight of command decisions that could send young warriors to their deaths. "They're positioning based on detailed knowledge of our aircraft capabilities and tactical procedures. Someone's providing them with the kind of intelligence that takes years to develop through operational experience." Ekko continued her cleaning duties while absorbing every detail of the tactical situation developing around her. The enemy's anti-aircraft deployment revealed knowledge that extended beyond simple route planning into the technical specifications of American military aircraft. They knew radar cross-sections, electronic warfare capabilities, and operational limitations that were classified at the highest levels of military security. The intelligence leak wasn't just compromising individual missions. It was exposing decades of technological development to hostile analysis. The afternoon briefing revealed the strategic importance of tomorrow's objective with uncomfortable clarity. The target represented more than just tactical value. Its capture or destruction would shift regional power balances in ways that could influence American foreign policy for decades. The enemy understood these implications and had deployed resources accordingly, creating a defensive matrix that would challenge even elite special operations forces operating with full tactical surprise. Rodriguez's expression reflected the grim calculations of military leadership as he outlined casualty projections for various tactical approaches. Each potential route carried unacceptable risk levels, but abandoning the mission would have strategic consequences that extended far beyond military considerations. The mathematics of special operations warfare sometimes demanded accepting terrible odds in pursuit of objectives that couldn't be achieved through conventional diplomatic or economic pressure. Evening brought no relief from the tactical challenges facing tomorrow's mission. Intelligence updates confirmed that enemy forces were continuing to adjust their positions based on American planning changes, maintaining lethal coverage of every approach route that mission planners developed. The level of real-time intelligence coordination suggested that hostile forces had access to American planning conferences as they occurred, rather than simply receiving periodic updates from embedded sources. Ekko's maintenance rounds brought her through the communications center, where encrypted traffic revealed the scope of coordination required for tomorrow's operation. Multiple aircraft, support vessels, intelligence platforms, and extraction assets were being positioned across vast geographic areas, their movements coordinated through communication networks that enemies appeared to be monitoring with uncomfortable precision. The mission's complexity made it vulnerable to the kind of intelligence penetration that was obviously compromising American operational security. Colonel Blackwood's evening briefing acknowledged the reality that conventional tactical approaches had become unviable due to intelligence compromise. Success would require innovative thinking that broke from established procedures, improvisation that enemies couldn't anticipate based on historical operational patterns. But military organizations excelled at following proven procedures rather than inventing new ones under pressure, especially when the consequences of failure included strategic defeat and significant casualties. The secure conference with higher headquarters revealed political pressures that made mission cancellation impossible despite confirmed security compromises. The target's strategic value exceeded the acceptable risk threshold for American casualties, creating a tactical problem that couldn't be solved through careful planning or superior technology. Success would depend on human factors, leadership, training, and the kind of innovative courage that transformed impossible situations into legendary military achievements. Ekko recognized the tactical signatures of missions that would be remembered long after the classified details were declassified and studied in military academies. The combination of strategic importance, confirmed intelligence compromise, and political pressure to succeed created conditions that historically produced either spectacular victories or catastrophic defeats. Tomorrow would determine which category this operation joined in the classified annals of special operations history. Master Chief Rodriguez's evening assessment carried the weight of someone who'd survived enough impossible missions to recognize their common characteristics. The enemy had positioned forces based on detailed knowledge of American capabilities and procedures, but their tactical deployments revealed assumptions about how elite operators would respond to specific threats. Those assumptions created vulnerabilities that could be exploited by leaders willing to abandon conventional tactical wisdom in favor of dangerous improvisation. The mission briefing room emptied gradually as personnel departed to make final preparations for what everyone understood would be an operation defined by its unpredictability. Equipment checks, communication tests, and final intelligence updates proceeded with the mechanical precision that marked elite military units. But underneath the professional routine lay the tension of soldiers who understood they were walking into a tactical situation designed specifically to kill them. Ekko's evening cleaning routine provided one final opportunity to observe the pieces being positioned for tomorrow's operation. Maps, photographs, communication frequencies, and tactical timelines revealed a mission of staggering complexity involving hundreds of personnel across multiple time zones. The scale of coordination required made the operation vulnerable to the kind of intelligence penetration that enemies had obviously achieved, but also created opportunities for the kind of tactical deception that could turn enemy knowledge into a liability. The fluorescent lights in the SEAL compound hummed their familiar tune as Ekko completed her final rounds, her cart squeaking across polished floors that would soon reflect emergency lighting as operators departed for their rendezvous with history. The building would empty of its elite warriors, leaving behind only support personnel and the accumulated evidence of tactical planning that might have been compromised from its inception. But hidden among the maintenance staff was a warrior whose own history was about to intersect with the present in ways that could determine whether tomorrow's heroes came home alive. The pre-dawn darkness carried weight that seasoned operators recognized as the calm before chaos descended with military precision. Ekko arrived at the compound 2 hours before her scheduled shift, using her maintenance access codes to enter facilities that would soon be abandoned for the battlefield. The empty corridors echoed with her footsteps as she pushed the cleaning cart toward Colonel Blackwood's office, knowing that her invisible status was about to become the most important tactical asset in an operation that conventional wisdom suggested was doomed to failure. The manila envelope had been joined by others during the night, a collection of classified materials that someone with intimate knowledge of both her past and current operations had positioned, where only she would discover them. The photographs now included recent surveillance images of enemy positions, technical specifications of hostile anti-aircraft systems, and tactical assessments written in handwriting she recognized from her own military service. Someone was providing her with intelligence that could save the lives of every operator scheduled to deploy in less than 6 hours. Colonel Blackwood's arrival interrupted her examination of the classified materials, his weathered face reflecting the strain of commanding elite forces in a tactical situation that violated every principle of operational security. His gray eyes moved across the mission status boards with the methodical attention of someone who'd learned that overlooked details killed good soldiers. But today, even careful preparation couldn't overcome the fundamental problem of operating in a completely compromised environment. Ekko's trained pilot instincts recognized the moment when her 7 years of invisible service were about to end with consequences that would echo through military history. The classified intelligence hidden in her cleaning supplies revealed not just enemy positions and capabilities, but the identity of the source who'd been providing hostile forces with detailed knowledge of American special operations procedures. The network of intelligence compromise extended through multiple levels of military command, but its center was a single individual whose access to operational planning had enabled months of tactical preparation by enemy forces. The secure phone's sharp ring announced the final intelligence update that would determine whether 127 elite operators departed for a mission or a massacre. Colonel Blackwood answered with professional composure that masked the reality that he was about to send the most highly trained warriors in the American military into a tactical situation designed specifically to destroy them. The enemy's intelligence advantages were so complete that conventional tactical approaches would result in casualties that would devastate special operations capabilities for years. Ekko's decision crystallized with the clarity that had once guided her through combat missions, where split-second choices determined who lived and who died in flag-draped coffins. Her years of invisible service were about to end, but her identity as a warrior had never truly been hidden. It had simply been waiting for a moment when her unique combination of tactical expertise and operational access could make the difference between strategic victory and catastrophic defeat. The maintenance cart's squeaky wheel announced her approach as she pushed it directly toward the colonel's desk, knowing that her next words would either save dozens of lives or end her career in military disgrace. The morning briefing erupted into controlled chaos as final intelligence updates shifted tactical parameters for the last time before deployment commenced. Ekko positioned herself near the communications equipment, where classified traffic revealed the final positioning of friendly and hostile forces across the operational area. Every piece of intelligence confirmed that enemies had achieved the kind of tactical preparation that historically preceded legendary military disasters, creating kill zones that would challenge even elite special operations forces equipped with the most advanced technology available. Master Chief Rodriguez entered the briefing room with the measured steps of someone who'd learned to recognize the difference between difficult missions and impossible ones. His 30 years of special operations experience provided the expertise needed to evaluate tactical situations where political necessity conflicted with military reality. But today, even his accumulated wisdom couldn't identify conventional solutions to the problems created by complete intelligence compromise. The enemy's advantages were so overwhelming that success would require the kind of innovative leadership that transformed desperate situations into the foundations of military legend. Colonel Blackwood's final assessment acknowledged what every experienced operator in the room understood but couldn't officially voice. They were launching a mission under conditions that violated every principle of tactical security. The strategic importance of the objective justified accepting terrible risks, but the mathematics of special operations warfare suggested that conventional approaches would result in casualties that could destroy elite capabilities that had taken decades to develop. Success would depend on factors that couldn't be controlled through careful planning or superior equipment. Ekko's maintenance duties brought her within reach of the tactical displays, where satellite images revealed the final enemy deployments that would greet American forces in less than 4 hours. The hostile positions demonstrated knowledge of American operational procedures that extended beyond simple intelligence compromise into detailed understanding of how elite forces responded to specific tactical challenges. The enemy wasn't just anticipating American operations. They were using accumulated expertise to create tactical situations that would test every assumption underlying special operations training and doctrine. The weight of classified knowledge pressed down on Ekko as she recognized that her 7 years of invisible service had positioned her as the only person in the compound, with both the tactical expertise to understand the scope of the intelligence compromise and the operational access needed to provide critical information to military leadership. Her past as a combat pilot had prepared her to make the kind of split-second decisions that determined mission success. But today, her choice would influence not just tactical outcomes, but the strategic balance of power in regions where American interests faced existential challenges. The final pre-deployment briefing revealed political pressures that made mission cancellation impossible regardless of tactical realities. The target represented more than military objectives. Its capture would influence diplomatic negotiations, economic partnerships, and regional power structures in ways that could define American foreign policy for decades. The stakes were too high to abandon the mission based on security concerns, even when those concerns suggested that conventional tactical approaches would result in strategic defeat disguised as Pyrrhic victory. The compound's corridors filled with the controlled energy of elite operators making final preparations for deployment, their movements marked by professional efficiency that masked the tension of soldiers who understood they were walking into a tactical situation designed specifically to kill them. Equipment checks, communication tests, and weapons inspections proceeded with mechanical precision. But underneath the routine lay the awareness that today's mission would be remembered either as legendary improvisation or catastrophic intelligence failure. Colonel Blackwood's office became the focal point for final coordination, as multiple agencies synchronized their contributions to an operation whose complexity made it vulnerable to the kind of intelligence penetration that enemies had obviously achieved. Satellite coverage, electronic warfare support, and extraction assets were being positioned across vast geographic areas, their deployment coordinated through communication networks that hostile forces appeared to monitor with uncomfortable precision. Every aspect of the mission had been compromised, except for one critical element that enemies couldn't anticipate: the tactical expertise of a maintenance worker whose military identity had been hidden for 7 years. Ekko's final decision required abandoning the invisible status that had protected her from the career destruction that followed her past heroism, accepting that revealing her true identity would expose her to military justice systems that had already demonstrated their willingness to punish innovative leadership in favor of procedural compliance. But the lives of 127 elite operators weighed more heavily than personal consequences, and her unique position as both tactical expert and operational insider provided the only remaining opportunity to prevent a massacre disguised as a special operations mission. The maintenance cart's wheels squeaked against polished floors as Ekko pushed it directly toward the briefing room where Colonel Blackwood was conducting final coordination with higher headquarters. Her weathered hands gripped cleaning supplies that concealed classified intelligence materials, while her mind rehearsed the words that would either save dozens of lives or destroy what remained of her military career. The moment of decision had arrived with the same clarity she'd once experienced while flying combat missions, where hesitation meant death and decisive action separated heroes from casualties. Colonel Blackwood looked up from encrypted communications as the maintenance cart approached his position, his weathered face reflecting the strain of commanding elite forces in impossible circumstances. His gray eyes registered mild curiosity at the interruption before shifting to professional attention as Ekko's posture changed from invisible service worker to military professional in a transformation that conveyed decades of training and operational experience. "Sir," Ekko said, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions under pressure, "I need to speak with you immediately regarding critical intelligence that affects this morning's operation." Her words cut through the tactical discussions with precision that demanded attention from military leaders trained to recognize authentic expertise regardless of its source. The briefing room fell silent as conversation stopped, and every head turned toward the maintenance worker, who just addressed a colonel with the confident directness of a peer, rather than a subordinate. Master Chief Rodriguez's expression shifted from mild surprise to sharp attention, as his experienced instincts recognized something in Ekko's bearing that contradicted her official position as support personnel. 30 years of special operations had taught him to identify operators regardless of their current assignments, and the woman standing beside the cleaning cart projected the unmistakable confidence of someone who'd commanded respect in life-or-death situations. Ekko reached into her cleaning supplies and withdrew the manila envelope that had started her journey from invisible maintenance worker to crucial intelligence asset. The classified materials she spread across the briefing table included photographs, tactical assessments, and communications intercepts that revealed not just the scope of the intelligence compromise, but specific details about enemy capabilities that could transform today's impossible mission into achievable objectives through tactical innovation rather than conventional approaches. "My name is Lieutenant Colonel Esperanza Valdez, call sign Ekko," she announced, her words carrying the weight of military identity that had been hidden for 7 years. "I'm a combat-rated F-16 pilot with 3 deployments and classified experience in close air support coordination. The intelligence compromise affecting today's operation originates from sources I helped identify through my access to this facility's classified materials over the past 18 months. Colonel Blackwood's expression shifted through multiple stages as the implications of Ekko's revelation became clear. The maintenance worker he'd barely noticed for months was revealing herself as a senior military officer with tactical expertise directly relevant to the crisis threatening his mission. More importantly, her unique position as both insider and tactical expert provided access to intelligence that conventional sources had failed to develop despite months of investigation. The classified materials Ekko presented revealed enemy capabilities and positions that contradicted official intelligence assessments, providing tactical details that could enable innovative approaches to challenges that conventional wisdom considered insurmountable. Her analysis identified vulnerabilities in hostile defensive positions that intelligence professionals had missed, creating opportunities for mission success through unconventional tactics that enemies couldn't anticipate based on their knowledge of standard operating procedures. Master Chief Rodriguez approached the briefing table with the measured steps of someone who'd learned to evaluate tactical intelligence under combat conditions. His experienced eyes moved across the classified photographs and technical assessments, while his mind processed implications that could transform today's mission from probable disaster into potential victory. The intelligence Ekko provided wasn't just comprehensive. It was actionable in ways that could enable the kind of tactical innovation that separated legendary military achievements from footnotes in classified failure reports. The revelation that a combat-rated pilot had been operating undercover within the SEAL compound for 18 months raised questions that extended beyond immediate tactical concerns into the realm of military personnel policies and career management practices that could destroy qualified leaders in favor of bureaucratic compliance. But those questions could wait until after today's mission determined whether 127 elite operators returned home alive or joined the classified casualty reports that marked intelligence failures throughout military history. The secure communications equipment crackled with encrypted traffic as higher headquarters demanded final confirmation of deployment status, their political pressure creating urgency that couldn't be delayed for lengthy intelligence analysis or procedural verification. Ekko's tactical assessment would have to be evaluated and implemented in less than 2 hours, requiring the kind of decisive leadership that transformed desperate situations into the foundations of military legend through innovative thinking rather than conventional approaches. The weight of command decisions pressed down on Colonel Blackwood as he evaluated intelligence that could save his operators' lives, but came from sources that challenged every assumption about security clearances, personnel assignments, and operational access within elite military facilities. Ekko's revelation represented either the breakthrough needed to transform an impossible mission into achievable objectives, or a psychological operation designed to compromise American special operations capabilities at their most critical moment. Time compressed into the narrow window where tactical decisions would determine strategic outcomes for decades to come. Colonel Blackwood's choice to trust intelligence from a maintenance worker who'd revealed herself as a combat pilot would either be remembered as innovative leadership that saved elite operators from certain death, or as the final mistake in a chain of intelligence failures that destroyed American special operations capabilities through misplaced confidence in compromised sources. The tactical displays updated with real-time intelligence as Ekko's analysis integrated with official assessments to create a comprehensive picture of enemy capabilities and friendly opportunities that conventional sources had failed to develop. Her unique perspective as both tactical expert and operational insider revealed vulnerabilities in hostile positions that could be exploited through innovative approaches that enemies couldn't anticipate based on their detailed knowledge of standard American procedures. Colonel Blackwood's decision crystallized with the clarity that marked experienced military leaders capable of making life-and-death choices under impossible pressure. The intelligence Ekko provided aligned with tactical indicators that official sources had identified but failed to interpret correctly, creating a comprehensive assessment that offered the first realistic opportunity for mission success since intelligence compromise had been confirmed. Her tactical expertise and operational access provided exactly the combination of knowledge and insight needed to transform today's mission from probable disaster into potential victory. "Master Chief," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades in special operations, "integrate Lieutenant Colonel Valdez's intelligence into our tactical assessment and modify mission parameters accordingly." Her analysis provides options that weren't available through conventional sources. His words transformed Ekko from invisible maintenance worker to critical mission asset in the span of a single sentence, acknowledging her tactical expertise while accepting responsibility for decisions that could determine whether today's heroes came home alive. The briefing room erupted into controlled activity as intelligence specialists, tactical planners, and mission coordinators absorbed Ekko's analysis and began integrating her assessments into operational plans that had been developed over months of careful preparation. Her unique perspective revealed opportunities for tactical innovation that challenged conventional approaches, while providing realistic alternatives to missions that standard procedures couldn't accomplish under conditions of complete intelligence compromise. Ekko's transformation from maintenance worker to tactical consultant proceeded with military efficiency as personnel who'd ignored her for months suddenly recognized expertise that had been hidden in plain sight. Her analysis of enemy positions and capabilities revealed tactical knowledge gained through years of combat experience, providing insights that academic intelligence training couldn't replicate. The classified material she'd accumulated during 18 months of invisible service contained information that conventional sources had failed to develop despite unlimited access to official intelligence networks. Master Chief Rodriguez coordinated the integration of Ekko's intelligence with existing tactical plans, his 30 years of special operations experience providing the expertise needed to evaluate innovative approaches under combat conditions. Her tactical assessment identified specific vulnerabilities in enemy positions that could be exploited through unconventional methods, creating opportunities for mission success that conventional wisdom had considered impossible given the scope of intelligence compromise. The compound's communication systems buzzed with encrypted traffic as multiple agencies coordinated modifications to operational plans that had been considered final less than an hour before deployment. Ekko's intelligence revelations required adjustments to aircraft routing, insertion procedures, and extraction protocols that would test the flexibility of systems designed for carefully rehearsed operations, rather than last-minute improvisation based on sources that challenged every assumption about security and personnel management. Time became the critical factor as deployment schedules allowed less than 90 minutes for incorporating tactical innovations into mission parameters that had been developed over months of planning. Ekko's analysis provided opportunities for success, but implementing her recommendations required the kind of rapid decision-making and organizational flexibility that separated elite military units from conventional forces. The clock was counting down toward a moment when 127 operators would either validate innovative leadership or become casualties of intelligence failure disguised as tactical necessity. The morning light filtering through reinforced windows illuminated tactical displays, where satellite images and technical assessments revealed enemy positions that had been analyzed through Ekko's unique combination of combat experience and operational access. Her intelligence provided the first realistic assessment of hostile capabilities that could be countered through innovative tactics rather than simply endured through superior training and advanced technology. The mission had evolved from impossible to achievable through tactical expertise that had been hidden for 7 years. Colonel Blackwood's final briefing integrated Ekko's intelligence revelations with operational requirements to create a mission profile that challenged conventional approaches while providing realistic opportunities for success under conditions that had previously suggested certain disaster. Her tactical analysis identified specific methods for countering enemy advantages, while exploiting vulnerabilities that official intelligence sources had failed to recognize despite months of preparation and unlimited resources. The transformation of Ekko's status from invisible maintenance worker to critical tactical asset represented more than just mission adaptation. It symbolized the waste of human resources that occurred when military bureaucracy prioritized procedural compliance over operational effectiveness. Her expertise had been available for 18 months, while conventional sources failed to develop the intelligence needed for mission success, creating a situation where institutional blindness nearly caused strategic defeat through mismanagement of available talent. Ekko's tactical briefing proceeded with professional precision as she outlined enemy capabilities and friendly opportunities that could enable mission success through innovative approaches rather than conventional procedures. Her combat experience provided credibility that academic credentials couldn't match, while her operational access had enabled intelligence collection that official sources had failed to achieve. The combination created tactical assessments that challenged assumptions while providing actionable alternatives to methods that intelligence compromise had rendered suicidal. The final hour before deployment compressed decades of military experience into decisions that would determine whether innovative leadership could overcome institutional failures that had nearly caused catastrophic losses among America's most elite warriors. Ekko's revelation represented both opportunity and judgment, the chance to save lives through tactical expertise and condemnation of systems that had wasted her capabilities, while conventional approaches failed to address obvious intelligence compromise. The compound emptied as operators departed for aircraft that would carry them to their rendezvous with history, their movements marked by professional confidence that masked awareness of tactical innovations that had been implemented with less than an hour's notice. Ekko's intelligence had transformed today's mission from probable massacre to achievable objectives, but success would ultimately depend on whether elite warriors could execute tactical plans that challenged every assumption underlying their training and experience. Colonel Blackwood's final coordination call confirmed that higher headquarters had approved modifications based on intelligence from sources that couldn't be officially acknowledged due to classification restrictions and personnel irregularities. Ekko's tactical analysis would be tested in combat conditions that would either validate innovative leadership or expose the consequences of trusting unconventional sources under pressure that allowed no margin for error. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Ekko as she watched tactical displays track friendly aircraft departing for objectives that her intelligence had helped make achievable. Her 7 years of invisible service were ending with consequences that would influence American special operations capabilities for decades.